Jerry and Debbie here with you on Take 2, EWTN Radio. A good day to you wherever you happen to be. And we are wrapping up a week, Debbie, hard to believe. And I think we've got a fun show today, and one that people might have to think back a little ways in their lives to come up with a take for today's show. But I am willing to bet that most people have had the experience that we're going to be talking about on the show today.
Yeah, we're talking about, have you been traveling or just being about doing your normal daily routines, and all of a sudden you look up and you see a sign that says there's a chapel on the second floor, or there's a chapel around the corner, maybe at an airport, obviously a hospital, or a hotel, or something of that nature. Or maybe you're in a remote area of the country and you see a sign that says a chapel is only a few miles away. We want to talk about this today because it's very interesting. We don't believe there's any accidents to that. We believe that there is a reason why we're discussing it today, and so it may have a profound effect on somebody listening. And so that's the topic for today. Is they have a chapel here? That's what we titled it. It's kind of a shocking thing, maybe to some people, thinking, why would a chapel be at an airport? Well, we people travel. People are nervous about flying. 99%
of people walk into airports praying, Debbie.
That's right, and walk out of airports praying as well. So that's our conversation for today. Number to dial is 1-800-585-9396. Phone lines fill up quickly, and that's a good thing. That means you're active, you're participating, and that's what we want. So don't hesitate.
Yeah, again, it's we have titled the show "There's a Chapel Here." This is because sometimes we find and discover these things quite by accident, but it's a very beautiful discovery that we make, and it could be in one of our U.S. national parks. I don't know if there are chapels in any of those. Debbie, you mentioned hospitals, obviously. I actually have found one in an airport. I didn't see it visually, but I was in Midway Airport in Chicago. And I had a couple hours between flights, and all of a sudden an announcement came on the air: Catholic Mass will be starting in 10 minutes in the chapel. And I'm like,
oh my goodness.
I have time to do that. So I went scurrying around asking, where's the chapel? And I attended Mass in an airport. So that was pretty cool. And so your listeners, maybe you've had a similar experience. Maybe you've been wandering out in the great outdoors somewhere and you came across a little shrine or something. And you thought, wow, wonder who put this here, and it just gives you a little spiritual respite from whatever you're doing.
Rich Jesse was sharing right before the show that he and his wife had a car breakdown, and they were praying, and right in front of them in a remote town in Colorado, there was a chapel, and they just really felt like Our Lady was watching out for them, and that really warmed my heart to hear that, because it's so amazing how God is constantly reaching out towards us if we're only open to that. And it sounded like Rich and his wife were, and it was a blessing. And it reminds me of another story later on the show, Jerry. Depending on if we have time, I want to share a story about in Maui, Hawaii. What happened on a convention that I was on. It was hilarious. But yeah, enough about my stories.
You mean
How about yours? It's a really cool story. It really is a cool. Okay, real quickly, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. I was on a convention with my husband, and we were traveling to Maui. And the first thing I always do is look for Catholic churches. For traveling, I always look for when the Catholic Mass is going to be. So I figured I'm in Hawaii. It's part of the United States. It's not going to be a problem. Catholic churches are everywhere. No problem. So I didn't really even think about it. We're on the bus with about 40 other attendees. And there was the announcement that we're kind of in a bit of a remote place in Maui. And we didn't really have travel. We didn't have travel set up. So they said, basically they were saying like, oh, don't worry about it. Don't go to Mass. And I piped up and I said, that's not happening on my watch. I said, I'm going to Mass. I don't care if I have to walk the whole island and find a church. And they said, you're not going to find one where we're going. And I said, yes, I will. And lo and behold, I just prayed. We got there to the hotel. And I went to the front desk and I said, can I ask a crazy question? Where is the nearest Catholic church? And their eyes lit up and they said, ma'am, you're in for a big surprise. And I said, why? They said, look through these beautiful trees. And there was beautiful Hawaiian different trees that are indigenous to Hawaii, just gorgeous. And they said, go through those trees and you'll see. I said, okay. So I walked about 500 feet and I'm walking through these trees. I'm thinking, what am I doing? I'm crazy. I get past the trees, and Jerry, the most beautiful Catholic church, tiniest little Catholic church, most beautiful Catholic church I've ever seen. Gorgeous. And I was just right in the middle of this like forest. It was unbelievable. And I went back, of course, to the hotel, and I was, screaming at the top of my lungs, hey, everybody, there's a Catholic church just about 1,000 feet from here. So there's my story. It's pretty interesting.
Well, what about you folks? As we wrap up the week of broadcasts here, we want to know if you have been out and about anywhere where you live in the United States, throughout the world, and you needed to find a chapel or a church, or you wanted to, or you just happened upon one, or maybe you've needed to. We could widen this out. If you've wanted or needed to see a priest at a certain time, and all of a sudden there was one, or just how your faith was filled and you were blessed in situations like this. 1-800-585-9396. We have texting available too. Text the letters EWTN to 55000. Just be sure there's not a little data rate that applies there. I had an experience too, Debbie. Sometimes if I travel to, I have a lot of friends in Reno because I used to live there. Mm-hmm. And a lot of friends in Las Vegas, too. And sometimes you find that the very, very best hotel deals are just really dirt cheap at the casinos, So I don't gamble. I don't put, I think the last gambling I did was buy a couple lottery tickets. And before that, it was like 25 years. So anyway, I don't gamble, but the rooms are cheap. The food is cheap. And so I asked around. I said, where do you think I could go to find Mass? And they said, well, we have it right here on site. And they told me where to get there. It wasn't a chapel per se, but I did attend Mass there. Debbie, there had to be 500 people at least who went to that Mass.
Wow.
It was absolutely amazing. And I had mixed thoughts here because, of course, what goes on in a casino, you never know what people are involved in while they're there, and activities and entertainment and gambling and so forth, not passing any judgments here, but they all felt they wanted to fulfill that Sunday obligation. Mm-hmm. So I thought the turnout was cool, and it was a beautiful, beautiful experience, actually.
That is amazing, isn't it? But Jerry, don't you feel like, do you feel that these are all an accident, or don't you just feel like God's hand is on everything?
Well, yeah, I think God watches out for us. Mm-hmm. And certainly we want to make the point right away that if you're out somewhere, say you go, camping, we should try not to plan events in our lives that are going to keep us away from church and from going to Mass. But if that happens, or for a lot of other reasons, medical reasons or transportation, the Sunday obligation is waived. But our hearts still desire, Debbie, to be with God and to find Him and to seek Him and to spend time with Him. And in some of the most unusual places in my life and in a lot of other people's lives, it looks like God has shown Himself. So.
Yeah, it's amazing. Amazing. Look at the phone lines are almost completely full. I think we may have an open phone line just for you at 1-800-585-9396. Please call us or text us. Text the letters EWTN to 55000. Wait for a response and then put in your question or comment. Data rates may apply, but we want to hear from you. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We're talking about there's a chapel here? Really? We'll be right back.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
Nothing that is exterior, although they're all good. Almsgiving and visiting the sick, and all of these things are wonderful, and we should do them all, but not at the expense of saying to Jesus, I thank you for coming. Happy birthday. My gift to you is a repentant heart, is a gentle spirit, is an unselfish mind. My gift to you, Lord, is a compassionate heart, is a listening heart. My gift to you is sobriety, is to go without drugs, alcohol, promiscuity, fornication, adultery. My gift to you, that you may make me as white as wool. I love you, Jesus.
For more information on Mother Angelica, visit Religious Catalog at EWTNRC.com.
No Catholic radio station in your area? Perhaps God is calling you to get involved. Learn more about starting a Catholic radio station where you live. Contact Jack Williams, 205-795-5756, or jwilliams@EWTN.com today.
Hi, this is Tim Staples from Catholic Answers. Advent is a time of anticipation. We are looking forward to the coming of the Lord, but we consider the coming of the Lord in three senses. He came 2,000 years ago as a historical fact. He will come again at the end of time, but he also comes to meet us at the end of our lives as well. Let us pray this Advent season that we might all prepare well to receive our Lord at his coming.
We know you like listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio, but have you thought about bringing them to your next event? No matter what type of event you're hosting, parish mission, conference, or retreat, trust Jerry and Debbie to make it come alive. Begin the process today of taking your presentation to the next level of success. For information on booking Jerry and Debbie, visit take2show.com, click on the J&D logo.
This is Peggy Normandin, host of Call Me Catholic.
Hi, this is Tim Staples from Catholic Answers Live.
This is Michael Warsaw, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of EWTN, wishing you a blessed Advent from all of us at the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
So glad you're with us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. As you just heard, Debbie and I love to be where you are and just share the faith and the fellowship. Whether we come together, Debbie is just on fire for speaking at women's conferences and retreats and parish missions and legatus chapters and to youth groups and catechetical gatherings. And there are a lot of things I can speak about as well. So we if you have a need for either one of us individually, or we have a lot of fun when we speak together. We just did a parish mission in Phoenix, and we've got something lined up in near Birmingham, Alabama in January, and a lot of other things that we are in discussions about right now. So please think about that and just email us at take2@EWTN.com if you've got an event coming up that you think we could fill the bill for, Debbie, because I know we would have a good time, and we love being with people.
That's exactly. We love being with the Take Two family. We really do, and it's so much more exciting when we're actually physically present and together. And we can do the show, Jerry. We can do the show on location, which is a lot of fun. It really is a community builder. Okay, Marion, you were first up. You got in so quickly. Way to go, Marion. Listening to EWTN Radio in Ontario, Canada, on the Station of the Cross. Hi, Marion. Welcome to Marion. Take Two.
Hi. I'm calling from Canada, Ontario. We came to this country 24 plus years ago, and before we came from Sri Lanka. And when we were in Sri Lanka, I used to attend daily mass during my lunch with my friend. And although I was excited to come to Canada, the only thing I was very sorry to leave behind was my attending daily mass during my lunch break. So that time, 1992, it was very hard to get a job in Canada, but thank God I got a temporary job in a hospital. And the first thing I went looking for is to see whether I can attend mass during my lunch break. And then I found this chapel, and when I inquired to see, they said they have a mass at noon. I just fell on my knees and thank God, and I just thought, oh Jesus, if I have the desire to find you, you'll always find me. So that's my story.
That is beautiful, Marion. Yeah, you're right. What we were just saying a minute ago, God loves a heart that seeks after Him, and He will never ever hide Himself.
And that time it was so hard to get a job, and I got this job, temporary job in this hospital. And this time during my lunch break, there was this chapel that had mass. I just thought, oh my goodness, if we have the desire, we'll always find it.
Yeah, and that had to help make your move and the whole transition go a little bit easier for you. I would guess.
Yeah, that was a real blessing to have got the job, because we came with my husband, myself, and my 2 kids when they were quite small. So that was a huge blessing at that time, and we have survived.
Absolutely. Marion, I wrote down what you said because it really touched my heart in a deep way. You said, if I have the desire to find God, He would find me. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that, Marion.
Yeah.
Can I borrow that? I
Sure,
love that.
You can.
Oh,
Sure,
bless your heart.
And thank you for taking my call.
Thank you. Thank you. We were blessed by your call, Marion. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you. Merry
Thank you.
Christmas.
Happy rest of your Advent.
Thank you.
Okay, Angela, you are up next listening to EWTN Radio in Dallas, Texas on Guadalupe Radio. Hi, Angela. Welcome to Take Two.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I was myself and my family have lived here in Texas for about 11, 12 years now, and we just decided to move into a different school district. And we're in the middle of it still, but the place I had moved to is like going to be another half hour farther away from the only church in the area, much farther out. But we went, okay. I was just that day feeling like, I'm not too sure about this, etc. But then when I went to the clubhouse area where they advertise what's going on and what they have, I found out that a St. Martin de Porres church is going up, nice, brand new, and right next to where I live. I mean, blocks from where I live, and that just happens to also be my daughter's favorite saint. So I was like, thank you. That's a sign. Okay, we're doing the right thing, but just blocks from where I live instead of like a 45-minute drive to Mass.
Wow.
Well, yeah,
So,
that kind of takes tails off on what Marion was saying. If you seek God with all your heart, He will come to you. Well, Angela, you were seeking a church with all your heart. Now a church is coming to you.
With one of your favorite saints' names. Yeah. Saint Martin's a strong saint. That's my husband's patron saint. I absolutely love that, and to think that it's so close to you. It sounds like maybe you might be recruited for ministry, Angela. You and your family to that beautiful church that kind of found you. What do you think?
Probably. Oh yeah, I'm certain of it.
Well, Angela, I have to just tell you real quickly. I was watching on EWTN television this morning after the morning mass. They had a beautiful little kind of reflection on the angels. And so if you get a chance, they'll probably replay it a few times on EWTN television, but it talked about how the beauty of the angels and St. Francis de Sales and how close he was to the angels. It's a different saint I'm talking about, but when your name is Angela, I'm sure you're very in touch with your guardian angel and the angels of your family. But I just wanted to just affirm to you that you have a beautiful name, and it's named after the angels, and that's very, very special. And they talked about it today on EWTN. So,
thank you. Okay,
Very nice.
Watch that.
Definitely.
Thanks, Angela.
Thank you, Angela.
Beautiful last few days of Advent, and a Merry Christmas to you. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We're talking today about, we have titled the show, There's a Chapel Here. Maybe you have just come upon a chapel, and this is the thing. It could be maybe a multi-denominational chapel. It could be a specifically Catholic chapel. I know my brother Joe retired from the Navy, and he lives near the base in St. Mary's, Georgia, and I've been to Mass with him many, many times on base. And they have, Debbie, this wall where if you walk in, it's set up for Catholic Mass, and they've got all the Catholic symbols and so forth, and a big crucifix up on the wall right behind the altar. But then that wall turns around, and I think it's blank or nothing on it for the Protestant services. So they use them for multiple different. I'm going to say denominations. Catholicism is not a denomination, but anyway, folks, if you have found a chapel, a very serendipitous discovery somewhere in your
I love
world
that word.
travels, do you?
Yeah, well, Serendipity. That's one of my favorite movies.
Oh, really?
You probably, I don't know if you ever saw it. You have to look it up after. Yeah, it's a great movie. Anybody out there, I'm sure that there's many folks that will call in and say, I love that movie too. It's a very popular movie, but great word.
Okay, well, the number is 1-800-585-9396. Share your take, your experience.
Okay, Martha, you are up next listening to EWTN Radio in Maryland on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Martha. Welcome to Take Two.
Yes, hello, and thank you for your show. It's always very informative and very entertaining and just a joy.
Oh, we like to be entertaining, Martha. You can bring us to your parish. We'll be really entertaining.
I can imagine. Well, when I heard just the very first lines of your topic today, I was like, oh my goodness, do I have a story? So this happened about 8 years ago. When my husband and I and our 7 children, we decided to go from Maryland, which is East Coast, west to Yellowstone National Park. And so it was the 8 youngsters, 7 children plus 1 young lady who was engaged to our oldest son, and 2 of us, so 10 of us in 2 cars driving west. And we left on Friday, and I was already thinking, oh boy, where would we be on Sunday? But it was ugly, rainy weather. First day, second day, and Sunday morning, I was already fretting about the church. I was like, George, my husband, I said, we have to find church somewhere. He said, look, we are on, driving across the states. What is the chance we're going to find a mass? I said, we just have to look. So first information center, we in the middle of North Dakota, we stopped, and I approached the counter and I asked them, I said, is there a Catholic church somewhere here? Because it was Sunday morning. She said, oh yeah, just a few miles down the road, there will be a sign, right on the highway. And it was rainy, foggy weather. We almost missed a little sign that pointed into the fog. So we made a right turn following the sign and kind of circled in the fog, ended up on a farm, no good, so turned back. Couple more turns, and then all of a sudden there is this little church, and Mass was already going on. This little church, there was maybe 12 farmers in the church, plus the priest. And so we immediately double up the population of the church. And these people probably wondered, where did these people come from? And especially all these young people. So Mass was beautiful. And afterwards they said, can you stay for donuts? And we kind of look at they probably prepare donuts for 12 people, not 24.
Yeah, so you wiped them out.
Yeah, exactly. So we politely declined. But the pastor said, where do you guys come from? And I said, well, I'm from Maryland. And he said, Maryland, that's where I went to seminary. I was like, Mount St. Mary? He said, yep. And I said, so you must know Father Michael Roach. He's our pastor. And he said, sure enough, this was my professor. Please say hello to him.
Oh my.
In the middle of North Dakota. So I was like, I will be so happy to. But what's even more amazing? Not only we started out with a Mass. When we came out of the church, sun was shining, and for the next 10 days, we had the most perfect weather. And to this day, I believe that God just smiled down on us and he said, nope, these guys are going to have a beautiful, beautiful trip. The fog was gone, rain was gone, and all the way there and back home, we had the most beautiful weather. So that's my story. And I just think that I tell it to people because I just think it's just amazing. When you, just like the lady said before, when you look for God in hard enough and you have the desire, He'll reward you.
Right,
and fantastic.
And he rewards you with these beautiful stories and the connection that you found with that priest there. Martha, you have a great story. That is a great story, and it's an inspiration to so many of us to really do exactly what Marion just said. Seek out God with all your heart, and He'll find it. He'll find you. Yeah, beautiful. I love it, Martha.
Yeah, I mean, all of the details of that story, Martha, are fantastic, and we thank you for calling and sharing that with us. And I know you have put a smile on a lot of people's faces because Debbie and I, Debbie's in Phoenix, I'm in Southern California, but we're connected by Skype, and we're both just looking at each other going, man, this is an amazing story. Thank you, Martha. We appreciate that. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We're going to go to Jim next in Front Royal, Virginia, and then if you are on the line, you'll get on the program. Hey, there's a chapel here. Have you been traveling somewhere near where you live or maybe some exotic place in the world and you thought, well, there's no way I'm going to find a chapel here or be able to get to Mass or find a priest, and all of a sudden the Lord came through for you. Share your take on that here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
The Spirit of Advent with Father Dominic Legg. In this season of Advent, as we prepare for the coming of Christ at Christmas, we're often invited to lots of Christmas parties. Now, one of the things you'll notice if you go to Christmas parties is how hard the hosts work to prepare for the coming of the guests. In fact, this Christmas, Jesus wants to be a guest in your life, in your heart. Listen to what he says in the book of Revelation. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and eat with him, and he with me. What do you need to do to get ready for the coming of Christ at Christmas? Do you need to clean up the living room? Do you need to take out the trash? What is in your heart that is preventing Christ from coming? Prepare for the coming of Christ this Advent and have a wonderful Christmas.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Teresa Tomeo.
Every time I go to Mass and see my husband serving on the altar as a deacon, it hits me how, with God, all things are possible. I mean, there is no way that we should be still married, number one, based on all the problems we had. But number two, the fact that I'm in Catholic media and my husband is a deacon is simply a testimony to the power of God and the teachings of the Church that saved our marriage and, more importantly, our souls.
Catholic Connection with Teresa Tomeo. Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
It's time for your favorite EWTN program, but there's no radio? No problem. Download the EWTN app at EWTN.com/mobile and enjoy on-demand live streams of your favorite EWTN radio and TV shows right now.
This is Al Cresta, host of Cresta in the Afternoon.
Hi, this is Dan Burke from the National Catholic Register.
This is Bishop Robert Barron of the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. Have a blessed Advent from all of us at EWTN Radio.
What a great discussion we're having on Take Two today with Jerry and Debbie because of you, dear listeners. Because of you. And Jim, as promised, we're going to you next. Here you are, Jim, listening to EWTN Radio in Front Royal, Virginia on Radio Christendom. I have never heard of that name of that radio station. How cool. I love your name of your radio station, Jim. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Debbie. Yes, it's Christendom College.
Very cool.
Really great liberal arts Catholic college. If your listeners out there are looking for a terrific education for their kids, I highly encourage it, strongly encourage it.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's where you can get principles.com, right? Isn't that the online publication? I think it's, let me see.
Is it Principles?
Yeah, it's from Christendom College. I think it's a free online publication.
Cool.
GetPrinciples.com, yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, sorry to throw you
Jim.
off there, Jim.
Best Catholic education in the country. All right, here's my plug for Christendom.
Yeah, fantastic.
So
school.
I'm a father of Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts, and in 2006, one of my sons and I were off to Cub Scout camp, and it was raining. It had been raining for 3 days when we left, and it continued to rain another 3 or 4 days after we got there. Everything was soaked, and the streams were swelled. But Wednesday, the rain finally broke, and so Wednesday night we put on some dry clothes and headed on to the little scout shop at the campsite, at the scout camp. And there was an old scouter there, scout leader of some sort, and I happened to notice that he had a crucifix around his neck, and on closer examination, I could see a Roman collar underneath his uniform. So I approached him, and I asked him if he was a priest, and he said he was, and we got to talking. And at that time, we were associated with our troop was out of St. Louis Parish in Alexandria. And he said, "Oh, you're a Catholic troop." He said, "Well, I'll come tomorrow and say Mass for you all." So I was kind of surprised by that, but I told him where we were camping. And sure enough, the next morning at 10 o'clock, he came down with a portable altar, and we went out into the woods near a little babbling brook, and he set up this portable altar, and he assigned altar duties to different boys there in the troop, and we all stood within inches of this altar with the sun, coming down through the leaves and the sound of the brook, and he said Mass for us, and it was just a very beautiful and memorable moment. And it made me think about the many souls down through history who have had to say Mass in the woods in hiding, because there was no available church, or they couldn't be out in the open about it. But for us, of course, it was just a really beautiful opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
wow.
Debbie's usually the more emotional one, Jim, but I'm actually just my eyes are welling up a little bit because after you said, especially what you said there at the end, that was true, and that really drove it home to me. But I just was thinking of here in the beauty of God's creation, with, like you said, the sound of the brook and the sun and the trees and the leaves and the smells and probably birds chirping, and you're celebrating the highest form of our faith, the sacrifice of the Mass right there, and this priest did that for you. And I don't know, Jim, did you get a sense that he maybe went to the campgrounds and places like that to just specifically to do this for Catholics he ran into, or was he just kind of spending the weekend there himself?
Well, it's a Boy Scout camp, and he's a Boy Scout leader and a priest.
Okay.
So he's certainly probably associated with the troop. And
right.
A lot of troops, particularly Catholic troops, will have a priest or a deacon who travel with them and are part of their unit actively as their chaplain. He was in his 90s. He was an old guy, and
wow.
he'd been in Boy Scouts. I think he said for 40 or 50 years. So I'm sure he said Mass for a lot of Scouts over that time.
Bless him.
Well,
we were really blessed,
right,
by happenstance, I suppose you could say, or providence, that I bumped into him and just struck up a conversation with him.
Yeah, but Jim, can I say something? He didn't announce that he was a priest. You actually you saw the collar, and so he didn't go around announcing to the different groups, "Hey, I'm a priest. If anybody needs a priest," right?
Correct. Yeah. No, we were in a store. We were in a camp store, and I saw his crucifix first, and that caught my attention because he had a nice heavy crucifix. And then underneath his scout shirt, I could see the collar underneath the scout shirt, so that drew me in.
Right, but see, here's where I'm going with this. This goes back to Marion's comment, where she was saying, when you seek God, then God will find you. There had to be. It was a two-part thing here because you were open to it. You wanted. I mean, obviously, that was meant to be. So I do believe it was divine providence in that sense, because you asked, and then here he was standing in front of you, a priest who's willing to say Mass. To me, that is just a beautiful encounter.
Absolutely. I think every Mass is providence. Every Mass is God saying, "Here I am. I'm here for you." And really, shame on us when we don't walk into that inviting door and miss that opportunity.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot of calls, but I want to ask you one more thing, Jim, and that is, how did you see any impact on the Scouts? Were they impacted in any sort of visible way in terms of just appreciating the gift that they had received in this priest coming and having Mass out there like this?
Well, it's hard to tell. I'll tell you, if you ever deal with 10-year-olds at camp, they're always excited to start with. But certainly my son and I have talked about it over the years. He remembers it. It certainly left a lasting impression with him. And I hope and pray that all those boys will reflect fondly on that special Mass. Because they're so unique out there in the woods, in God's full creation, in his cathedral that he built. Could have taken a more beautiful setting.
Jim, that was a great story. Loved it. We all could conjure up our visual images of that, of you and the boys huddling around this altar, and how beautiful. What a great experience. You recalled it beautifully for us. So thank you, Jim. Thank you. Have a great rest of your Advent.
Okay, number is 1-800-585-9396. There's a chapel here. Maybe you have found a chapel or had an experience like Jim. Ran across. I'm going to tell, hopefully, in a few minutes of how I came across a priest by accident one time when I needed one. But share your take here. We got an open line at 800-585-9396. You may have found a chapel unexpectedly in a mall, for example, or obviously airports have them. Certainly hospitals and maybe national parks and monuments and things like that. So let us hear from you. Ann, we're going to go to you next, listening in Boston to EWTN Radio on the Station of the Cross. Hello, Ann. We're so glad that you called Take Two. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
I just happened to be listening, and my story actually was how similar to Jim on encountering a priest just at the right time. My story was a couple of years ago, and my mother was hospitalized, and when she came in, we didn't realize quite how seriously ill she was. And at this time, I was in the hospital, and two physicians came to me, and they were basically briefing me on the very serious condition she was in. And I happened to have no other family members with me. And so I just stepped out into a hall, and I did not cry. I was very, very, I had weight on my shoulders, but I was composed. However, a priest just sort of appeared in the corridor, and he came right over to me, and he said, "You need to talk to someone." And it was so welcome, and his words were so helpful to me. They helped me. He said, you're in good hands. God is with you. He will walk you through this. Each choice as it comes to whatever's coming, God is with you. And he was sort of a rock. His message was a rock to me. My mother was hospitalized for a couple of weeks, and she did eventually pass. And this priest actually was the one that anointed her right before she went. But it was so providential that I saw him right at that point, and he really was tremendously helpful to me. The little chapel in the hospital, St. Elizabeth Hospital in Boston, I would go there just about every day, and it was my rock as well. But this priest happening to meet him, sort of like that serendipity, it was just really providential that God's grace was there, that he gave him to me right at the point that I needed to speak to a priest. So I was just very grateful.
And absolutely. And you were, like, as you stated at the beginning, you were alone and you were going through this, and it was a pretty, a crisis situation right away. And to have the priest show up just at the right time and to say those right words to get you through, and then to also anoint, like you said, anoint your mom. How beautiful is that? It's God's way, I believe, of just reaching down through the right people at the right time, who are open, who are going to care for his children. And God was caring for you so greatly at that moment. And I would love to add your mother's first name to our book. We have a book of prayers that we always hold people up in prayer who have passed or who are living and need prayers. I would love to have your mom's first name, and also if you remember the priest's name, I would love to attach that priest's name to your mom's name just to hold him up in prayer as well.
Yes, actually, the priest's last name, I do not have that, unfortunately.
Okay,
I believe his. I don't know if I could give that accurately on that.
That's okay.
I found out later he was one of the chaplains there, and he was beautiful. I communicated with him later. I don't know if I'd have his name accurately there. But my
right,
mom,
that's okay. Yeah. God knows his name, so I'll just put the chaplain at the hospital. Okay, go ahead. And your mom's name?
My mother's name is Mary.
Mary. Oh, well, perfect. See, and she named you Anne. Look at that. Look at that. You guys are covered. Mary and Anne. Oh, that is amazing. I love that. Okay, we added your mom, and Anne, that's a beautiful story. And your faith is it's a witness for all of us to really remember that God's never going to leave us in those crisis times. We really have to just trust that He's got our back. And it happened in your case. The priest showed up out of the corridor. So.
Thanks, Ann. Nice to hear from you on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. And yeah, just real briefly, as people know, I travel a lot hosting Catholic Radio pledge drives and speaking and so forth. And I just really, I like to go to confession before I travel. And this one time I just didn't have a chance to do that. And I was flying out of San Diego, so this was similar to the story, I think Jim was sharing when he looked and saw the cross on the priest, then he noticed the Roman collar. So I was really like going, Lord, please. I said a prayer on the way to the airport. I said, Lord, please let me encounter a priest so that I can go to confession. And right after I checked my bag, I'm walking towards security, and here's this gentleman, black pants, but he had this. It was a cooler time of the year, so he had a thick green jacket on. But I thought I saw at the top of the green jacket, his shirt was black. And I went, well, that's not everybody who wears black pants and black shirts. So I sped up and got around him and very, not to be too obvious, turn around. Sure enough, priestly collar. So I noticed he was going through security up to the same terminal. So as soon as we both got through security and he got situated, I said, "Hey, Father, would you hear my confession?" And, of course, he said yes.
Wow.
Like a good priest would. So we turned an airport terminal into a chapel, into a confessional.
That is pretty cool. I was just thinking, though, can you imagine if that poor priest was like running away from you and it was almost like you were stalking him? Father,
security.
Security. And you're going, no, I just want to confess my sins.
Sure you do, sir. Come this way.
Right. That's a great story, though. Great story. Okay, Michelle, you are up next listening to EWTN Radio in Monument, Colorado. Hi, Michelle. Welcome.
Hello?
Hello, you're on.
Hi, Michelle.
Okay, hi. I just was calling in because when I was a child, we used to go skiing at Lake Tahoe in California. And at Squaw Valley, they used to offer Mass on the Mountain. So you would, the skiers would ski in to this Mass that was scheduled every Sunday. As I remember, it was noon. But, the fact that the priests made themselves available for that is above and beyond. And, of course, if you've ever been to Lake Tahoe, it is the most beautiful place you can imagine. So to be able to have Mass outside on top of a mountain, it was amazing. So my call is to thank the priests for making themselves available to us where we are when we need them.
Well, Michelle, I would agree with you on the Lake Tahoe. I was actually scheduled to be in Lake Tahoe tomorrow, as a matter of fact. Yeah, but I heard there's a cold front, and so I rescheduled the trip. I love Lake Tahoe. I've got a quick question for you, though, just because I'm trying to get a visual picture of being on the mountain with the skis. Did the skiers have skis on, and did the priest have skis on?
I don't remember the priest having skis on, but
okay.
We literally would ski, and most of it, you would take your skis off right there.
Gotcha.
So all around you, but you skied right there, and it was amazing.
Wow. See, now I wish I didn't cancel my trip. And Rich Jesse just said I shouldn't have canceled it because I would have had some nice snow up there. You're right. Okay,
yeah.
I agree. I agree with you. Great memories that you have. What a great story. That one's a good one. I can picture that one. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Blessings, Michelle. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Right before our next call, I want to remind you, hey, today's edition of Church Pop from EWTN, you can go to churchpoppop.com and get daily emails that'll remind you to log on. There's a very interesting article. Nick Cannon, who is the celebrity host of America's Got Talent, he has actually stepped up his attacks on Planned Parenthood, saying that the organization is engaged in modern-day eugenics and population control against African Americans. That's not anything new. Margaret Sanger was a racist to the core. So Planned Parenthood, if you notice, they will almost always set up in African American neighborhoods. So it's just horrible racism on the part of Planned Parenthood. And here you have an African American celebrity, Nick Cannon, who is coming out and saying that. Some of the other stories, there are some lighter ones, like what Christmas services looked like around the world in 1950. What else here? Well, there was, I guess, something happened on The Voice recently, Debbie. I don't watch the show, but there was a singer doing a Christian song, and it turned into a worship service. I guess people in the audience were raising their hands and
like a praise and worship.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. And
I love church pop.
Well, and there's an article on Father Donald Calloway's new book on
I've got to read that.
Champions of the Rosary. So, folks, get subscribed to churchpop.com. You're going to find some great stuff there every day.
You sure will. And don't forget, Jerry, we want to read that email before the end of the show. But Mary, you've been waiting so patiently. Mary, you got our Virtual Patience Award. I don't know what you're going to do with it, Mary, but it's going to you at Kansas City, Missouri, listening on the EWTN app. Hi, Mary. Welcome to Take Two.
Well, thank you. Well, I have a great story. So my son was a competitive baseball player. And for all you parents who know about competitive sports, to schedule Mass on Sundays is a challenge because you never know what your schedule's going to be, and you have to find out every Mass in the whole area that you're at so that you can pick the right time, either Saturday night or Sunday morning or Sunday night. So we had a tournament, and our game was set for the afternoon, so we had to go that morning. We were in Orlando, Florida. And my son was mad because none of the other guys were going to Mass, and he wanted to hang out and, be with the guys. And I'm like, well, I have to stand before the Lord, and I'm not going to go to hell for not getting you to Mass, so come on. So he wasn't happy, to say the least. So we get to this church, on our Garmin, and there's this big old strip mall with like an old souvenir shop. And we're like, okay. So we parked and we walked in, and there were folding chairs set up in this church. But the altar was so beautiful, and the tabernacle. There was this life-size Divine Mercy picture, and the priest, he was an African priest, and he had the best gift you could think of for preaching, and the music was great. And during his homily, he said, some people put sports even before God, and they choose to miss Mass and play sports. And my son looked at me, and I looked at him, and we knew our Lord was talking to us. But it just was a wonderful, wonderful Mass, and I think it impacted all of us so much.
Wow. There are those times when it's always said, priests will always say, if you listen to the homily, there's something that will speak right to you. But boy, I'll tell you, Debbie, it does not get any more direct than that. So I'm sure you and your son talked about that afterward. What was his thinking and his reaction after that, Mary?
He was, Mom, yeah, you were right. He was pretty contrite, and he understood that. He knew that he just wanted to hang out with his friends, but he knew that God wanted him there. And since then, this was when he was 12, and we were competitive, and now he's 18, and very close to his faith. And that's, attributed to a lot of things. Our youth group is amazing, and they go to Steubenville. Yeah, those early years, because my husband suggested at one point, we can't always make Mass because we might be playing. And I said, if you put baseball before God, there's something very disordered in this. And I said, no, we have to put the right things in the right order, and God comes first. And you know what? It doesn't matter how hard our schedule is. We always make it to Mass, and sometimes we're stinky and dirty after a game, but we have never missed a Mass. And
wow.
So God provides exactly. All you have to do is put out a little bit of effort, and masstimes.org is great, and you can find a church anywhere. So, yeah, God is good. And he's so cute because, our Lord, I call him cute, but he is, because he always provides exactly what's needed.
Mm-hmm. Mary, we couldn't agree more. You hit a home run with that story. I pray that your son continues to share his story of the memory of that story, because it can inspire others of his age group, and I think that's awesome, because that's how we learn and grow. Because I think it's easy to make excuses of why we can make an excuse of why we can't go to Mass, or we're traveling, or this, or the time, or whatever. The excuses are easy. These stories are the real stories that we have to hold on to, the truth that God is bringing us back to the Eucharist, and finding the perfect times and the perfect people, and everything just perfectly laid out as God would do to let us be part of that sacrifice. Mary, great story. I'm going to replay this several times. I loved it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Great to hear from you. Who knows, Debbie, that experience may have planted a seed of a vocation in her son's heart, or at least the thought of maybe thinking about that at some point in his life. We'll pray for him to find God's will, as we do for all young people. Okay, we're going to try to get to a few more of you here. We got Kathy next, listening to EWTN Radio on our friends at Annunciation Radio in Ohio. Hi, Kathy. You're on take 2.
Hi, Kathy.
Hello, Kathy?
Kathy, did you step away from the phone?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Hi, Kathy, you're on.
Hi there. Hi there. Good to talk to you guys.
Likewise.
Listening to you, it brought to mind, 100 years ago when I got married, before my husband was Catholic yet, and, before cell phones, before internet, before masstimes.org. mentioned to him that, no, I know you're not Catholic, you're not coming to Mass with me, but when we're out of town, would you come to Mass with me just so that I don't have to go alone and find the church and all that? And he said, oh, yeah, no problem. And he always did. We went out of town. We made phone calls. We found a Mass, a church to go to no matter where we went. Well, one time we went on a 3-week vacation out west, and we were taking little roads, and I told my husband, we're going to have to find a church. And he said, well, I got news for you. You're not going to find churches out there to go to Mass. And I said, oh, yes, we will. There's a Catholic church everywhere. We will. So sure enough, we'd be driving by, and unless you stopped to make phone calls, you weren't sure how far in advance you needed to, make the phone call because you didn't know how long it would take you to get to the next town, and you weren't even sure where the next town was. So what we did was we kind of drove by these little towns, and some of them would just be little crossroads, and we'd look for church spires and church steeples, and we would pull in and drive around and see what time the Masses were or if there was a Catholic church. And if there was, within a certain amount of time, we'd hang around. If not, we'd travel on to the next little town. And that's the way we did it the whole time, and we never missed a Mass. And my husband was really kind of, surprised, like, wow, they really are everywhere. Well, I think since that time we have cultured a real liking for going to Mass, going to churches away from our normal church time, because we find people in different cultures. We find little neighborhood churches. We find, that's like my husband said one time, I can't believe it's the first time I heard Palm Sunday Passion where
we got about 1 minute here, so sorry about that, Kathy. Got about 1 minute if you can kind of tie this up for us.
Okay. All right. Well, just that we found so many wonderful times, and we always look forward to going to Mass out of town, and it's just because, we decided we were going to do it.
Yeah, you made the effort. You're searching.
Made it a priority. Yeah.
Yep,
absolutely.
I love it. We have more to say about this subject, so keep it going on Facebook or take2show.com or email us. We didn't even get to half of what we wanted to talk about, Jerry.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. And what it always happens, we've got John and Pat and some others on the line. Wish we had more time with you, but this is another fantastic show. Listen, on Monday, how has the meaning of Christmas changed over the years? It means one thing to a child, one thing to, say, an adolescent. Later in life, it could mean something different. So be with us on Monday. Until then, Debbie, what do we want to wish people?
Have a beautiful and blessed day. We'll see you real soon.